over chat. Awesome. All right, guys. Very good morning and welcome to this masterclass. I am your host for today, and hopefully you know me. So I'm Vikas Srivastav, co-founder of AlmaBetter, and I'm also heading product and engineering here. So welcome you to this session on a bright Saturday morning. And we keep doing these episodes of masterclass where we try to generate awareness among folks who are relatively freshers who want to break into this field of data science. And most of these masterclasses are oriented or around either products or industries, so that you get to know how the amalgamation of data science and industry happens, right? So this is overall the objective of all these masterclasses that we do. And I would want to welcome everyone who has joined over this Zoom session, and also folks who have joined us over LinkedIn and YouTube. So thank you again for joining this session. So in this masterclass, guys, we'll talk about how BharatPe uses data science for high impact risk analytics, right? And there's so many jargons here, right? So probably you'd know BharatPe, most probably because of Ashneer Grover. He has gained a lot of popularity and fandom, to say the least, because of his appearance in Shark Tank and he being really blunt with things. But of course, that's his way. But here we are going to talk about a company called BharatPe, and you guys might know about it. And do not confuse, this is not a government company, guys. It's a proper private company. They're unicorn. They're valued at more than $3 billion plus, right? So, and in this masterclass, we're going to sort of distill for you what does data science mean, what is risk analytics, and then once we understand those, we'll talk about how BharatPe or any such similar company in the fintech space, how they leverage this skill of data science to improve their business, to grow their business, and to give the best customer experience overall, right? So, right, yes, he has written a book, right? And definitely. So, cool, guys. So we can sort of start. So I'll basically walk you through today's agenda. First of all, we want to discuss and talk about a brief overview of BharatPe. What does BharatPe do? So we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about the importance of risk analytics in the fintech industry. So that is very important. We need to understand how risk analytics is important in fintech. Of course, it is important. It could be important in other domains, but the primary use case of risk analytics lies in fintech, where what do I mean by risk analytics? So risk can be overall two folds. So one is your credit risk and the other is fraud risk, right? So we'll talk about this. Next, we're going to talk about data collection and processing. So how companies like these, they collect data and process data, right? So that's the first step. Next, we'll talk about data analysis and modeling. So what kind of models these companies would be using to determine risk, and then what kind of analysis that they can do on top of it, right? Next, we'll talk about risk assessment and management. So how that is done overall. And then we have very interesting icebreaker quiz. So we're going to do a really Kahoot quiz, and the winners will be getting vouchers and goodies from our team. So yeah, that is going to be really interesting. And next, Rashmi from our team, who is head of admissions here, she is going to walk you through the AlmaBetter program. What are we trying to do, and what is the curriculum? How is the program sort of structured, and what kind of offerings or facilities that you'll get in our program. So she will also give you a dashboard walkthrough. And towards the end, we'll be open for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please keep posting them in the Q&A section of this Zoom chat. And people who have connected over LinkedIn and YouTube, you can mention your questions in the chat, and our team will pick those up, and we'll try to clarify those as well. All right, so let's get started, guys. I'm really excited to do this session with you all. Uh, Cool. Hang on. Just give me a second. Right. So overall, you would know about BharatPe, right? So first of all, you might have seen the emergence of these QR code scanners present across all, more or less, all shops and merchants across India, right? So with UPI, there has been a tremendous revolution in terms of doing payments and collecting payments, and it has actually made the ease of doing business pretty sort of convenient. Earlier, merchants would be using, let's say, POS machines where you would swipe your debit card or credit card, or they would be taking cash more or less. But now we have witnessed a huge digital transformation in terms of payments, and this is being enabled by companies like BharatPe, PhonePe, Paytm as well, right? So PhonePe, Paytm, they also install these QR codes on their merchants, and but the difference is that they charge a small commission fee on each transaction that happens on these merchants through their devices, right? But Bharat Pay is more or less unique in that sense that they also have these QR scanners placed in the businesses that they have partnered with, and these businesses they vary from very small businesses like very small kirana stores, and this could be like medium level shops where you can probably see like hotels, restaurants, probably some electronic shops or jewelry shops. So they also have these QR codes to accept payments from their customers, right? So Bharat Pay is unique in this sense that they do not charge the merchants for installing these QR devices, which uh, sorry, yeah, hang on. Right? So they do not charge the merchants or businesses for installing these QR scanners to accept the payments, but uh, but what they do is they give out loans to these small businesses, right? So small businesses, they are looking for credit. Traditionally, they for these businesses, they used to seek out money lenders, local money lenders, in fact, to take loans, because banks will usually not approve loans for them. So mostly they had to resort to local money lenders for financing any such credit that they need to run or even operate their business, right? So Bharat Pay actually has been a game changer in this domain, where with the introduction of these QR code scanners, they have actually revolutionized the game and made the payments really easy, right? So you can just go ahead and scan the QR code and make the payment, and you're more or less through, right? So before I sort of go ahead, I have a very simple question for you guys. I'm sharing the Padlet link over the chat, and just open that. And I have a question, so you can start posting your answers here by double clicking, or you can click on plus. All right. So there is a very simple question I have, and can you write the full form of QR? I just want to understand. Do you know what does QR stand for? So you might have been seeing all these QR code scanners, and you might have been hearing about this a lot. But can you tell me what does it stand for? So quick response code, right? Which is coming from Siddharth Ray. Pretty awesome answers, Siddharth. So the QR is an acronym for quick response code. So great, guys. So awesome. All right, so let's continue with our presentation. So overall, if you see the business model of BharatPe, they onboard a lot of these small business owners or small merchants that we call, by helping them install these QR codes. But that is not their primary source of revenue, because they're not charging merchants on the basis of that. Instead, what they're trying to do is they're trying to give out loans to these businesses, and these loans can be in the range of like 10,000 to 1 lakh on a monthly basis. And it's not easy to give out loans to any sort of unstructured segment of customers. In this case, customer is basically your small business owner, right? And not, let's say, the usual customers like we individually, right? So for phone pay, the customers would be us who are transacting and making payment through those. But more or less from Bharat Pay's perspective, the customers are more or less those merchants, small business owners who are looking to get some financial credit from Bharat Pay, right? And it's not easy to give out loans to any such, as I mentioned, any such unstructured segment. You need to assess their credit worthiness, right? You need to have a good understanding and more or less a guarantee, right? That if I am giving out, let's say, 50,000 to this particular business, whether they will be able to repay my loan back in time, right? Otherwise, Bharat Pay can give out loans to a lot of businesses, maybe let's say lakhs of businesses in a month. But if they're not paying back or making the repayments in time, Bharat Pay can actually go for a toss, right? So of course, when they give out loans to these merchants, they charge certain interest rates, right? So these interest rates are not like really huge, but monthly they are more or less charging around 1 to 2%, which compounded annually will translate to something around, let's say, 14%, 15%, or maybe it can actually go to 20% over a year, right? So that much interest these business owners would need to make on top of the principal amount which Bharat Pay is giving to them, right? And apart from lending or giving credits to these business owners, they also do other financial services, like they are giving insurance and investments, other investments to these small businesses, right? So in terms of insurance, let's say there is an automobile repair shop, so they can give out insurance for, let's say, property damage, or there could be other forms of insurance depending upon the merchant as well, right? So it could be like, if the shop catches on fire, right? So who is going to take care of that, right? So Bharat Pay can actually give insurance against these calamities, and there could be some natural events as well. So this is what Bharat Pay is overall trying to do. It's trying to onboard customers by installing QR codes. That is how they onboard it, but they are not generating revenue through that. The primary source of their revenue comes from by extending loans to these owners, and then also they have started to give out other financial services, right? So let's say if you are starting out a business today, you would need to maybe have different sort of categories through which you can generate revenue as a business overall, right? So this is the overview of Bharat Pay. Before I sort of go ahead, guys, can you please mention over chat if you are able to sort of understand how Bharat Pay works, right? So just even if you have a very brief understanding, that's fine. But can you mention yes over the chat? All right, awesome, guys. So let's move ahead. So if you are, let's say, a business owner, you can actually track everything through the Bharat Pay app for these medium or small scale business owners. So right. So you can see that here there could be certain, let's say, loan amount or credit amount that the owners can see, which Bharat Pay has, let's say, decided for them, right? So it depends upon a lot of factors on the basis of which Bharat Pay can actually decide how much money should I give, right? So let's say today, when you get a credit card, let's say from ICICI or maybe Axis Bank or maybe HDFC, you would be given a certain credit card limit, right? And if you have noticed, these limits can actually vary from person to person, depending on their credit history, their overall credit profile, and there could be a lot of other factors like their disposable income and a lot of other factors, right? So that is very important in this case. And Bharat Pay actually needs to decide how much money can I give to a particular merchant, right? Should I give them 50,000? Should I give them 1 lakh? So probably, let's say, a particular merchant can request for 1 lakh rupees. But if their credit profile is not good, Bharat Pay might actually tell them, hey, I'll give you credit, but probably not like 1 lakh. I can give you max 50,000, because based on my risk analysis, I have determined that your credit worthiness is worth overall 50,000 and not 1 lakhs. Because if I give you 1 lakh, it's more likely that you are going to default and not been able to pay. So I'm not going to give you that entire amount. I'm going to give you less. So there are like variety of factors, and today we'll discuss all of those, right? And this is what they would use to uh, do all such decision making, right? And if you can see on the right hand side of your screen, so you can see the usage statistics, like how much amount the merchant has already withdrawn from BharatPe's credit limit, and then what's the remaining amount that they can spend to run their business or do any sort of operations on day-to-day basis, right? So overall, if you see, if I wanted to give you like broader umbrellas where risk analytics is being used in the fintech industry, so they are overall they can be divided into certain segments. So the first thing is, if you want to understand, let's say if you want to start out a business where you want to lend out credit to people, so it's not an easy task, right? It's a fairly complicated and involved business, right? And fintech industry is risky, right? And let's say if overall paying capacity of people reduces, and if I've already given out loans to those people, it can turn out to be a risky affair, right? And people might not be able to pay back, and that can actually hamper the business. So fintech industry is overall risky, and when I say risky, the risk does not only is not only associated with the credit risk, as in if the customer is going to default or not, but the risk also comes in form of fraud risk, right? Which we'll talk about a bit later. But overall, fintech industry is risky, and businesses need to assess the potential risks to succeed, right? So both credit and fraud risk will come under this umbrella. Risk analytics overall, if you see in the fintech industry, they use a lot of these data analytics technique to identify, assess, and manage potential risk, right? So how is this achieved? So they are employing a lot of really smart data science and data analytics techniques. They're employing really smart machine learning models to do underwriting or to understand whether, let's say, a particular transaction could be fraud or not, right? So there are like major two-fold use cases in terms of risk analytics. One is your credit risk, and the other is fraud risk. Credit risk is more or less associated with determining the risk whether the customer will be able to pay back the loan or the credit. And fraud risk is basically, let's say, uh, to assess overall if the transaction which is happening. So I have requested for a certain limit and I'm withdrawing it. So these companies would need to understand if I am the authorized customer, if I am the one who is intended to withdraw that limit, or maybe who is authorized to do a particular transaction. So because today there could be a lot of scams and frauds that can happen. People can sort of impersonate your identity and try to do transactions using your credentials, and that is what these companies would need to assess. Because for example, let's say if you have gotten an SDFC credit card and you are sitting at home, right? But you suddenly get a message like an amount of, let's say, 50,000 transaction has been done on your credit card, but you're sitting at home, you did not do that transaction. So what you would do, you'd eventually call up the bank and say that, hey, I have witnessed an unusual transaction on my credit card account, and this is definitely not me, because I was at home, I did not purchase anything, but there seems to be some sort of fraud happening there, right? So the bank would sort of go ahead and analyze what happened, and they would sort of take that risk uh, under themselves, right? So they would, of course, mitigate that fraud risk by giving out that credit amount to the customer and bear the risk on their own, right? Which is like huge. And and it is associated with sort of two factors, or two concerns. One is, of course, the customer experience, and and accordingly your brand reputation is also at risk, right? So if I'm seeing that there are a lot of frauds happening on SDFC credit card, I would not go ahead and use those cards. Probably I would want to switch to a better company who has better mechanism of fraud and credit risk detection, and I would probably, let's say, switch to American Express, right? Uh, Risk analytics, which is achieved through data science, they are helping businesses make informed decisions and minimize any such potential risk overall, right? And as I mentioned, credit risk and fraud risk are more or less like two major categories of risk associated with such fintech companies. And if a company is able to do or able to have a good control in terms of doing credit risk analytics and fraud risk analytics, they can actually improve and enhance customer experience. They can improve the efficiency of the business. They can do away with a lot of redundant manual tasks, and that can also drive a lot of revenue growth for them, right? So how does this risk analytics happen at any such company? So in our today's case, we have BharatPe as a potential fintech company for which we're going to sort of understand everything, right? So how does the data collection and processing happens at BharatPe? So they collect the data from multiple sources. The first of all, because they have onboarded merchants, so they are able to access all the transactions which are happening at those businesses, right? And in a way, if you see that this is like a closed loop so it's not exactly a closed loop model, but which American Express has, right? So American Express gives out credit card to its customers, and they also own the merchants in a way, right? So they are getting data around all the transactions which are happening at merchants. They're also getting data around the transactions happening at the customer level. In this case, customer is any person like me and you, right? So, but of course, for BharatPe, the customers would be primarily your merchants. But a lot of people are transacting at these merchants. So let's say at a shop like a sweet shop, where there could be like 200 purchases at that shop. So people would be scanning the QR code and doing the transaction. So all these transactions data would be accessible to Bharat because they have onboarded the merchants, so they have right to that, and they can derive a lot of very valuable insights into those financial activity, right? And so before I sort of go ahead, guys, so in terms of merchant transactions data, can you guys so I'll come back to Padlet here again, right? And I'll just clear the post. And I have a simple question for you guys. So what kind of merchant information or variable based on these transactions that BharatPe can use to assess a risk overall at a particular merchant level? So what do you think? How can that happen? Can you list down like possible variables or features or information at merchant level which could be useful for a company like BharatPe to assess their risk? Can you please come to this Padlet and start answering that question? It's a very important question, right? So because a lot of times it's not expected from you to, let's say, build any particular machine learning model, but the most important thing is what kind of quality data you're passing to a machine learning model, right? So in relation to that, I want to understand what could be like really carefully devised features which BharatPe can make on the basis of these transaction data happening at merchant, right? So some people are saying amount and number of transaction. So there could be like average transaction spend at a particular merchant, right? In last, let's say, 3 months. That could be one. Okay. A number of transactions. So what's the average number of transactions happening at that merchant, probably on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, or maybe in the last 1 month, right? Sales turnover is more or less, right, which is the total amount of spend that has happened over that merchant. Siddharth is mentioning transaction volume, which is again the number of transactions. Industry and business type, awesome. So that is also very important. And what BharatPe can actually do, so they have all these merchants and they have been labeled and tagged to a particular industry and business type. So BharatPe can actually have a variable as in what's the average spend at industry level, right? So let's say there is an industry which is, let's say, medical, or let's take an example of all medical shops in India where BharatPe has their QR scanners installed, right? Now there's a particular merchant A where you want to sort of analyze whether the transactions which are happening at this merchant, whether it's more or less out of pattern or not. So you can have a variable like average transaction spend at that particular merchant A divided by average, let's say, spend at all merchants belonging to this particular industry. So that could give you an idea, right? So let's say generally, if you know that a particular medical shop does like around 1 lakh sales turnover every day, and there's this particular merchant where we have witnessed like 5 lakh transaction spent, that can give you an idea where that this there could be some sort of unusual activity happening at that merchant. And if that's identified before, that can help BharatPe to stop all these unusual activities or fraud happening in those accounts, and they can curb it and stop sort of fraudsters from taking over, right? Siddharth has also mentioned geographic location, which is awesome. Payment processing history, that's great. Customer reviews and rating, that's also important. Um, cool. So there could be like CIBIL score. So definitely there could be like a credit score at also attached at a merchant or small business level, and there could be data from different credit bureau providers for these small business owners, and what does their credit score look like, right? Um, and I can see like so of course, if they access the PAN card, so they get all the transaction made by the company. So we are assuming that that's already happening, right? So I think someone has also mentioned merchant ID. Okay, merchant ID is of course the unique identifier for the merchant, but it is not the variable on the basis of which BharatPe can actually take a decision. It's of course to identify a particular merchant, but location, merchant category, transaction amount, date and time, footfall, awesome. Inventory clearance, all right. So I am getting enough inputs from you guys, and you're all probably on the right track, but we'll have to, in fact, be more precise at it, right? So let's try to write down certain variables which could be important, right? So one particular variable, right? So I'll just so variables at, let's say, a particular merchant level, right? What could be those? So one could be, let's say, average transaction spend, right? Uh, which again could be defined at a category or industry level, right? So that can be there, right? Second could be average transaction volume, right? And that is again we can do at category and industry level. So you can get that idea. And you can also identify let's say something like a fraud to gross ratio at a particular merchant, right? So something called I would say fraud to gross ratio at merchant level, right? What does this mean? So this means like, let's say, so I can take a particular window, and this is something that a lot of leading companies use, right? So if I want to have this FTG ratio at merchant level, what should be my look back window, right? Should I calculate this for last 1 month transactions, or last 3 months, or last 6 months, or probably last 1 year? It's better to have more recency into these variables. So it could be like last 1 month transactions, and you can calculate those. So how you're going to calculate this variable? So this variable will be simply like uh, fraud transactions in last 1 month at that merchant divided by total transactions uh, uh, in last 1 month overall, right? So this is what there could be, right? And I can go ahead and edit again. right? Total transactions in last 1 month. So here again, so I'll write in last 1 month at this merchant, and total transactions in last 1 month. So this is, of course, FT, fraud to gross ratio, in terms of the amount, as in the number of transactions. There could also be a fraud to gross ratio. And here, of course, I'm mostly talking about fraudulent risk, but there can be other variables which are used for credit risk as well. But you could have another variable which is related to amount, where you can sort of define this variable again as fraud. So total fraud amount of all transactions which happen in last, let's say, 1 month, and this could also be like 3 months, right? And divided by total transaction amount in last 3 months, right? So these are like these variables are like very important to understand if a particular merchant has a more or less unusual profile, right? So if this FTG, right, let's say FTG value is like 0.1, that means 10% of the of transactions uh, are more or less fraud at this particular merchant, and that would tell you that they have more risky profile, right? But let's say if this is like 0.01 or maybe 0.001, that means 1 out of 1,000 transaction is fraudulent, and that might be a lower risk profile. But again, there could be like other credit risk variable, so like uh, loan repayment variables, right? So you can simply get an idea of what's their default, as in default history or repayment history. So the variable in this case could be like at a merchant level. I'm saying that as in total timely repayments upon total um, uh, as in total amount of as in total number of loans taken, right? So let's see, if I have taken 10 loans as a business or as a merchant from BharatPe, and I have only repaid like 7 loans on time, and I've defaulted on like 3 months. So their default also comes with certain notions. So default can be defined as the window, right? So whether am I able to pay back the loan in 3 months, in 4 months? So there is like a degree of severeness here, and and on the basis of which you can actually define or classify uh, whether this particular customer or merchant has defaulted or not, right? So when I say defaulted, so as a company, I can take that, okay, if a particular merchant is not making a payment after 3 months of giving them a loan, so that will actually count as a default, right? So anyone who's able to make the payments within 3 months, they are considered as good customers. But let's say someone who is sort of defaulting and making not making the payments, or making the payments after 3 months of delinquency, they would be considered as bad customers, right? So there could be like a lot of other variables that you can calculate. Either if you're doing fraud risk analysis or you're doing credit risk analysis, I here mentioned variables which are like a mixture of the two. There would be like other variable which are coming from the credit bureau data, right? So they're like different credit bureau providers like Experian, Civil, TransUnion. There is also Equifax, right? So I'll just list those down. Of course, as a consumer, you have a proper CIBIL score, but to identify credit score for merchants, that could be a different calculation altogether, right? So there is TransUnion, there could be like Equifax, right? So there is like there are other credit bureau providers which give you data around what's your score. There's also FICO, which is like pretty popular. You can also get a proper understanding of, let's say, as I mentioned, turnover at a particular merchant, right? And that will help BharatPe understand how much revenue a particular merchant is making, let's say on daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis, and will they be able to pay back the loan? So that's determined after understanding what's the kind of disposable income that they have, right? So this is again like important variable. And similarly, we can come up with a lot more variables, which you would, let's say, independently analyze or correlate to your default rate. And then there could be like other use cases too, right? But these are overall would be useful for you to sort of understand whether I can what kind of variables or information that I can devise carefully that will give me a better understanding on top of the raw variables that I'm getting, right? So if you look at the raw data that you would be seeing at a merchant, right? So it would be something like there would be a merchant ID, right? There would be like amount of transaction, right? As in what so this is basically a single transaction data happening at merchant. So that is what I'm talking about, right? But overall, if you want to get the merchant profile, you need to aggregate all these transactions at that merchant level, and then you'll need to be able to create merchant level variables, right? There could be like for a particular transaction, this could be like location of merchant, of course, right? Where from where this transaction is happening, right? And there could be like other data too, right? So merchant name, of course, there would be that would be there, like merchant industry could be there, right? And there could be like other variables that you can define at that transaction level, right? So if you have a look, so there is like so one table is what I'm saying, which is transaction level data. um, and this is again at merchant level, right? At a particular merchant. And then there could be like an aggregated merchant data overall, right? So uh, so the unique identifier here in this table could be your transaction ID. In this table, your unique identifier could be merchant ID, right? So such sort of data, once you have organized it, you will be able to come up with these variables and make better quality decision making overall, right? So cool. All right, so let's come back to our slide here, right? So merchant transaction is one sort of data that BharatPe would be getting. They would be also getting a lot of external data from various sources, as I mentioned, credit bureaus. There would be data from government databases, right? So these small business owners or merchants would have, let's say, be affiliated or registered on as an entity and recognized by the government. So they will have access to that data, as in when that particular merchant was established and what's their profile. So government would have that data, and BharatPe would be paying maybe government to get access to this data, because they're also paying all these credit bureaus like Experian, Sibyl to get bureau data, right? So there are a lot of players in this fintech domain who are more or less who more or less works as data vendors, right? So some particular company as a data vendor, they can give out data on credit bureau, right? They can give out data on, let's say, income. They can give out data on, let's say, phone number, or let's say IP level data. They can also give other they could be like other data vendors focusing on other sort of information, right? So these are like external sources. And then there is another source, which is your customer feedback. So BharatPe would also be collecting feedback from customers to improve its services and accordingly identify potential risks, right? So there are like various categories of data which BharatPe would be collecting. One could be like merchant transactions data, the other, as I mentioned, external source data, and another type could be customer feedback data. All right. All right. So so now, how does BharatPe process these data? So usually, what happens that, so for example, if I want to get merchant transaction data, so there would be some prod service running. So whenever, let's say, a transaction happens, that particular service would push that data to BharatPe system, because the merchant would be more or less owned by BharatPe, and they have the right to those data. And it would first go ahead and get stored in a, let's say, a data lake. So it could be, let's say, if you're using AWS, which is a cloud service from Amazon, you could be using, let's say, RDS, which is a SQL database service provided by Amazon. You can also use something like S3, which is a storage uh, uh, service from Amazon. And you could store that sort of data, which is your, what we usually say, that is the data being stored in a data lake, right? Which is your raw data coming from various sources, right? Again, a lot of data that BharatPe would be pulling from these credit bureaus and other, and let's say government, and they would also be again storing it, let's say, in some other RDS table overall, right? So now once they have this data lake or the raw data, they would do some sort of a transformation and then load it to what we call as a data warehouse, right? So they're like really popular warehouse providers. Like in the case of Amazon, there is AWS Redshift. There is also a very big player you might have known, you might know about, which is Snowflake. So they provide data warehousing solution. So what you do, you have your raw data in your data lake. You do extract, transform, and load, and you send that data after aggregation and transformation to your data warehouse. And now, uh, your, let's say, ML algorithms can use data from this data warehouse to build machine learning models for a particular task, right? So we'll discuss what kind of task that could be, and we have already given an idea. So overall, once BharatPe, let's say, have access to all this data, and this data is available in their data warehouse, like let's say Snowflake, they can do a lot of analytics on top of it, right? So they can do descriptive analytics, they can do predictive analytics, and they can also do prescriptive analytics, right? So descriptive analytics, more or less, hang on, right? So just give me a second, guys. Right. Yeah. So descriptive analytics would not require, let's say, building any sort of ML model. They would essentially go ahead and analyze, let's say, independent variables, or maybe they would check correlation of one variable with respect to other, and they will do some sort of very descriptive analytics, right? Which is like give you a descriptive summary of this data and get an overall understanding of or overall understanding of what's happening, right? Um, uh, then the another category is your predictive analytics. This is where actually machine learning comes into the picture, because if you want to do certain sort of prediction, you need to use machine learning models to do any sort of prediction, right? So one important use case in the fintech industry is, will this customer default on a loan or not, right? So it has only two possible outcomes, yes or no, right? A customer can default on a loan, customer will not default on a loan, right? So there are only two possible outcomes. And any such, let's say, machine learning problems, we classify them as classification problem, because the end outcome is consists of only discrete values, right? So there are only two values in this case of a classification problem, where the main question is whether a particular customer will default on a loan or not, and it has two outcomes, yes or no. So that will come under predictive analytics, right? And then there is prescriptive analytics. We'll talk about this in just a while. So in prescriptive analytics, what you will do, you will use the prediction data or the probabilities that you are getting at, let's say, the merchant or customer level, and then using that along with a lot of other rules, and they would come up with different rules to determine certain information that we want to get about these merchants or these customers overall, right? So what kind of variables that they can see or look at? So loan amount, terms of the loan, merchant default history, and that can be sort of defined at a various window, like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. They can also do prescriptive analytics on top of merchant demography, which is the merchant age, as in how long has merchant been in place or in existence, what's their collections, what their disposable income, and then there could be like location level features, right? So prescriptive analytics can use the prediction data, which is your probabilities, along with other variables to come up with certain prescriptions, which can act as like rules which companies can use. And usually what happens, right, that let's say whenever you want to assess whether should I give a loan to a particular customer, you will eventually ask that whether this customer is going to default or not. So you're not going to, let's say, fire your ML model on all your customers, right? So first of all, you will have a simple filter where you'll employ a simple rule, and on the basis of which you will sort of filter down that list, right? Because you would not want to do a lot of computation in terms of ML model scoring for all the customers, right? So you will, let's say you start with maybe 1,000 customers. So you apply a certain set of simple logic and rules, and you filter out, and maybe you are left with now 500 merchants. And then once you have that, you can go ahead and employ your ML model to get an idea whether these 500 merchants will default or not, right? And you can have that idea at, of course, individual merchant level, right? So in the case of predictive analytics, it's very simple. It's a classification problem. The model essentially is required to predict loan default, right? And it has only two outcomes, and in our case we'll call that binary outcome. So one outcome would be yes, the other outcome would be no. And so once you have an ML model which is, let's say, trained on the historical loans data for all these merchants, so for future, what you would want to do, you would want to deploy that particular machine learning model for any, let's say, future merchant, and you can give a particular prediction of yes or no, not both, right? So you'll, of course, predict yes, this customer is going to default, and you would not go ahead and give out loans to them, right? But if the model says that they would not default, so they can even then go ahead and give out loans. But now, let's say if a customer is eligible to get a loan because the model has told me that they are not going to default based on their credit profile and other bit. So now the second question that arises is, how much loan can you give them, right? Just excuse me for a second. So you can then sort of define how much loan that you can give to a particular merchant, given that you have an understanding that this particular merchant is not going to default, right? So you need to define based on, again, certain set of factors, what's the credit line that you can give them, as in what's the loan that you can give them. Is it 50,000, 60,000, 65,000, or maybe 67,000 or 91,000? So where you want to sort of predict a continuous value, such as, let's say, loan amount, that comes under the category of regression problem. So one is your classification problem, where the outcome is of discrete nature. That is, they are of discrete quantity, like yes or no. But in the case of regression problem, your model would predict the loan amount, right? And there you need to sort of define what's the amount of loan that you can give out to a customer, and that again falls in the regime of regression problem. So in machine learning, especially what we call as supervised learning, where a model is trained on a historical data. So there are like two set of problems that you can solve. One is your regression problem, the other is classification problem. Regression problem deals with outputs which are continuous or numerical in nature. Classification problem deals with problem where the expected output is of discrete quantity or discrete nature, like yes or no, one or zero, something like that, right? So of course you can encode a yes as one and no as zero, right? Because machine would not directly not understand yes, but they would understand numbers like one and zero. All right. So this is how the predictive analytics works. And to give you an idea in detail, and this is what actually happens, because I previously have worked at fintech companies like American Express, Global Analytics, and HSBC. And if you look at how they approach, let's say, ML modeling and ML, let's say, risk analytics, they would use something like, let's say, KS scores to determine, as in, what should be my threshold on beyond which I can, let's say, give out loan or not, right? So usually what happens, right? So assume that you have around, let's say, 100 or 1,000 merchants with you, right? As in each record has a unique merchant ID overall, and you have a data which consists of like these 1,000 merchants, right? So now what you do, you divide these 1,000 merchants into maybe, let's say, 10 equal deciles, right? As in each decile bucket would consist of 100 merchants, right? So now how am I creating all these deciles? So overall, let's say if so usually what happens that when you use a classification model, like let's say a decision tree classifier, right, on a merchant on that merchant data. So for each record, it will give you a probability of default, right? And so they are not going to tell you that whether this customer is going to default, right? But it's going to give you a probability, right? So that probability could be like 70% or 40%. And now it is up to you to define the threshold, right? So you need to define at what probability threshold I'm going to sort of rule out that merchant and I'm not going to give them loans, or what's the probability threshold below which I can give out loans to these people, right, or these merchants. So you have 1,000 merchants. You have, let's say, predicted probability for all these merchants. And now what you do, you sort this data by a predicted probability from, let's say, 0 to 1, because probability can range between 0 to 1. So in the top, you have more or less those merchants we have which whose predicted probabilities are pretty low, like 0.001, 0.002. And then you have it sorted in a way ascending order. And the merchants in the bottom, they have like really high predicted probabilities of, let's say, defaulting. So now using something called KS score, or this is what we call as gains table overall. And KS is an acronym for Kolmogorov-Smirnov statistic. And this is something which is like hugely used throughout the fintech industry to assess the risk analytics and determine that probability threshold below or above which you're going to rule out the credit for a particular customer, right? So in this case, let's say we have divided these 1,000 merchants into 10 buckets, right? That means each of these buckets have 100 merchants within those, right? So 100 here, 100 here, 100 here. So overall, you have 1,000 merchants. And now because you have sorted them probability wise, the first bucket, the minimum probability score is 0, because that's what you started with, because there could be like merchants for which the predicted probability will be like pretty low. It can be 0 as well, right? And within this particular bucket, right, the maximum probability score of default is 0.387, right? Similarly, for the other bucket, it will be 0.402, 0.48. Usually, the max probability score would be the same as the min probability score of the next bucket, right? Usually that happens, but depends upon, it can actually not happen that way, because there could be like no merchant who has a predicted probability between 0.387 and 0.402, right? So each bucket or each deciles here, they have 100 merchants for which we know the minimum probability score and the maximum probability score. And let's understand what are these variable, right? So delay is essentially the default overall, right? So in this bucket, so there were like 2 merchants who defaulted, and there were like 100 who have not defaulted. And this is something that I know from historical data overall, right? What is the delay rate here? It's 2%, right? What's the cumulative delay? So there is again a column which calculates your cumulative delays. So here, let's say the delays or default is 3. So the cumulative delay here will be 2 plus 3, which is 5. Again, in this case, 5 plus 4 would be 9, right? You have delay rate for each individual deciles, and you have 2%, 3%. And of course, this delay rate would be an increasing order, because we have already sorted this data and created deciles in terms of increasing or ascending probabilities, right? Then you have, of course, cumulative delays. You have also cumulative non-delays or non-defaults overall, right? So you have 100 plus 95 is 195, 195 plus 90 is 285. So then you also have something like cumulative percentage count of delays. So basically calculate the cumulative percentage count of these delays, like 1.9% in this case, right? 4.7%. Uh, and then you have all these values. Similarly, you can do this cumulative percentage count for all the non-delays. So now your case statistic would essentially be the difference between these two cumulative percentage count, right? So for the first bucket or the first decile, so usually in the risk industry, they call all these as bins or buckets. So this first is my first bucket, this is second bucket, this is third bucket, or equivalently, you can call them as bins. Okay, BINS. And so now the case statistic here is the difference between the two. So in this case, it will be 12.4 minus, let's say 1.9. In this case, it will be 24.2 minus 4.7. In this case, it will be 65.9 minus 28.3. So wherever we witness the highest delta between these two numbers, that is going to give me the highest case score. And that is what you can go as the probability threshold overall, right? And of course, you need to also have a look at your confusion matrix, which is again an important concept in machine learning modeling. And I will not go into its depth, but overall, you can consider that it is a 2x2 matrix where you define your predicted output and actual output, and you sort of compare, right? And how your model sort of did on the test data, right? So of course, you train your machine learning model on a training data. Then you have probably, let's say, a validation or test data on where you're going to evaluate your ML model performance, right? So in this case, the one with the highest KS, which is the highest delta between this cumulative percentage count of defaults and cumulative percentage count of non-defaults, that is what you're going to set as the probability threshold. So in this example, I will sort of not give out loan to any merchant for which the predicted, let's say, probability is above 0.57. So let's say any merchant for which the predicted probability by our machine learning model is above 0.57, I'm not going to give out loans. I'll only give out loans to merchants whose default, whose probability of default lies within or less than 0.57. All right. So this is how it happens. And then, as I mentioned, the same thing. So you divide them into bins, and this is like a simpler way to sort of analyze. And here, again, on the basis of your cumulative percentage rates of your defaults and non-defaults, you're going to calculate the delta, and that is essentially your case statistic. And you are going to use that along with your confusion matrix to define the probability threshold, right? So my machine learning model, I'm not going to tell, because if I'm not defining the threshold, my, let's say, machine learning model can sort of understand that if I want to give a particular category outcome, whether this guy is going to default or not, as in 1 or 0. So default could be like 50% probability, right? But that usually not works or does not work in real life. So there you have to take the ownership of defining the probability threshold and not just give it a let's say default threshold of 50%, right? So in our case, that threshold comes out to be 0.57 as per this data, but it can depend upon business to business. So now if you see the default rate for this particular bucket is 10.3%. So there could be like a lot of businesses who can say that, hey, I can accept like default rate of 10%, but not more than that. And that is why I would sort of go ahead and define this as my probability threshold. And beyond which I'm not going to give out the loan, and I'm going to reject their loan application overall, right? So this is how overall, guys, ML model is used in risk analytics. And we overall discussed about credit risk, but you can sort of also replace this with fraud rate too. You can get an idea of the fraud threshold as well. But these probability scores will be like pretty low, where you would want to sort of define a threshold, right? So for fraud risk models, these probability scores could be like 0.07. right? Which is 7%, and 7% can be actually a relatively a greater fraud rate, right? So depends upon what kind of model I am making, whether it is for quantifying credit risk, or whether it is for quantifying fraud risk. I will be able to sort of understand what's my probability threshold going to be, right? So we took this example for credit risk, but I'll just reiterate, you can use the same technique for even fraud transactions, right? So let's say you have 1,000 merchants, you want to evaluate, or maybe 1,000 transactions, and you want to evaluate the uh, let's say the probability threshold for a transaction being fraud. So you can divide them into 10 deciles. A lot of companies, they also do something like 100 buckets. So instead of 10, they will sort of divide this into 100 buckets. So that means in each of these buckets, they will have 10 transactions, right? But if you are going with 10 buckets, each bucket is going to have 100 transactions, because we assume that there are overall 1,000 transactions. All right. So I hope this is clear to you. So Savita is asking how to prepare this table. So as I mentioned, so uh, once you score using your ML model on these, let's say merchant 1,000 merchant data, you are getting the probability values, right? You need to simply sort this table by probabilities, as in ascending order, and then you can as in categorize them or convert them into equal deciles overall, as in, so each bucket or each bin will have, let's say, 100 merchants there, or 100 transactions in, let's say, if you're doing fraud risk, right? So once you have that, you'll also get a, so overall, how would I get this data of delay or not delay, right? So whenever we are doing this, we are not doing this, first of all, on, let's say, a future test data. We'll first evaluate our model on the validation or test data, for which I already have the information about their default or not. And I am going to then assess, okay, this is how the behavior looks like, and this is the good threshold that we can go ahead for the model. So now, let's say once you define this threshold, so now you have deployed this model in production. So now any future loan application which comes, so you overall do a model scoring for that particular merchant loan application, and you basically, or the model gives you the predicted probability, right? So if the, let's say, if the probability is like 0.41, so you're going to say that, hey, this looks below 0.57, and I'm going to go ahead and say that, okay, I can give out loan to you, right? So that is one case. But if the predicted probability is above 0.57, you are going to tell that, hey, I'm going to reject this application, because the probability of default seems pretty high, and as a business, I cannot give it to you, right? So I hope, Savita, this is clear to you. We can do it. So we can simply do it in Python. We can do it in Google Sheet. But in Python, you can simply write a very small function. In fact, they're like other already predefined functions available in certain packages that you can use to calculate or create this gains table, right? We call this as gains table, right? I'll just mention that in the chat. So this is called gains table. All right. So this is how it happens. And if you look at risk assessment and management, so BharatPe, as we of course discussed, right, they are using data science or equivalently, as I said, machine learning modeling to identify potential risk by analyzing customer data, market trends, and other relevant data sources. We discussed about those to evaluate risk. And once, if you're able to do effectively, they can mitigate risk, and before it actually hampers the business, right? So this is like very important in fintech, because as a company, if you give out loan to any customer who's not going to pay back, it's going to damage their business, and you need to be like really vigilant and cognizant about it. Same goes for the fraud risk as well, right? So we discussed about assessing risk, and then once you have built your ML model for, let's say, credit scoring, or let's say fraud scoring, so now you can go ahead and develop different strategies, right? So you can say that, hey, I'm going to allow those applications for, let's say, down the funnel, whose, let's say, initial probability threshold or default is, let's say, 0.05. So now they will go ahead, and so there could be like different rules and strategies you can make on top of these probabilities overall, right? So as per our problem, the columns will change or will remain same for all problems. So let's consider two set of problems here, Savita. So if the problem is credit risk, you, of course, these are going to remain the same as in min prob, max prob. But of course, here you are going to say delay or default in case of credit risk. But if this were a fraud risk problem, this would remain the same. Here you would say fraud transaction, you would say good transaction, you would say for fraud rate, you would say cumulative frauds. So this way the column names would change, but the probabilities, as in name of this column, would remain the same. But the idea, one represents your probability of credit default, one is your probability of fraud overall, right? So these two are different probabilities, right? But of course you can keep the name same, but they usually represent different entities. I hope that is clear now, right? Can you confirm, Savita, if that is clear to you? Okay, awesome. All right, guys. So this is what we overall understood in context of BharatPe and how they can use, let's say, risk analytics, both credit and fraud risk, to do their business, right? And if you have seen the masterclass promo video that we made, there we did mention that BharatPe has a pretty low default rate amongst its merchants, which is around like 4% overall, right? So 4% default rate is not like that huge. When I was working at Global Analytics and we were working on this product called Lending Stream, where we were giving out, let's say high interest loans to UK customers. There, we were using different similar strategies overall to assess the risk. And there, I think the default probability, as in the default rate, was above 10%, right? So even though business was sort of happy there, even though 10% of my customers are defaulting, I'm still able to make a good business out of it. So this default rate, in fact, so what should be the ideal cutoff for the business? It varies from business to business, right? So some business would say that I cannot accept any a default rate above 5%. Some businesses would be happy to have a default rate of, let's say, 10% or even 13%. So depends upon business to business overall, right? So all right, guys, with that, we more or less conclude the technical part of this masterclass. And now we'll have a really interesting quiz with you guys. And to tell you again, the toppers of this quiz, they're going to get vouchers and goodies from our end. So yeah, please buck up, and we're going to play the quiz. And before that, I would request my team to share the feedback form over the chat, and they have actually shared. So please go ahead and fill the feedback form out, and and that will help us sort of do better and keep improving from masterclass to masterclass, right? So your feedback is really important. We go through them really seriously, and that helps us do better in all these masterclasses that we do. So Raghavendra is asking, is there a different scenario for industry and individual? So can you elaborate, Raghavendra? So are you talking about merchants and, let's say, simple customers like me and you? Is that what you're talking about? Because for BharatPe, okay, so it would be slightly different, right? So the behavior of a human, right, to default would be different than how a merchant behaves on these credit loans, right? So it's different overall, right? So you'll need to use different mechanisms to understand, let's say, merchant behavior. And then there is like customer behavior, where I say that customer is more or less people like me and you who are taking, let's say, individual loans or credit cards with these companies, right? And they're like different credit instruments, guys, if you don't know. So there is your credit card, there is your normal loan, right? Within loan, you have different set of loans like personal loan, housing loan, gold loans, mortgages, right? And then there could be like other credit instruments like credit line, right? So if you might have heard about a company called Slice, right? So they are not able to issue credit cards because of certain RBI regulations, but they can actually give out credit line or credit loan, or credit line they can give. So they can say that I am not giving you a physical credit card, but I can give you a virtual credit line, and on the basis of which we can do, yes, Slice overall, right? So for data science, which field is better for future? Banking, finance? So overall, banking is I would say banking is part of finance, and data science is like, I would say, because I personally come from the fintech background, and I can say that data science, uh, as in the a particular industry which uses a lot of ML modeling and data science, is fintech, right? But of course, there are other fields which are using data science to a great degree, like e-commerce, healthcare, insurance. They're like other sectors as well, right? But fintech is that industry which is using data science at its core, right? Without it, it cannot function well at that scale, with that efficiency overall, right? Cool, guys. So let's go ahead and yeah, take the quiz. So what I would need to do is I would encourage you guys to open your mobile phone, go to kahoot.it, right? So just go to kahoot.it, and then you will be prompted to enter the game pin, which you can see on the screen. Hang on. So I'll just reshare once, right? So go to kahoot.id, open your phone browser. It could be Safari, Chrome, whatever you're using. Just enter kahoot.it on your browser. You'll be prompted to enter a game pin. Choose a proper name so that we can give out the vouchers and goodies to the correct set of people. If your name is not clear, and even if you're topping the quiz, we won't be able to give out the vouchers because we won't be able to identify. It's very important you define, you write your proper name. So we'll wait for people to join this code, and this is going to be really interesting. So please, yeah, take this quiz. All right, guys, we're waiting for other folks to join in. All right, guys, we'll wait for yeah, a few more seconds till everyone joins in, and then we'll get on with the quiz. Abdul, this is kahoot.it. So game pin is 7750345. I am seeing other screen. Are you guys able to see the Kahoot screen? Just confirm once. I hope everyone is able to see the Kahoot screen, right? Okay, awesome. Cool, guys. Right, so we'll just get started now. So let's start our quiz. So this is, as you know, this is our masterclass, and the quiz starts in 1 second now. So what is the main goal of leveraging data science in the fintech industry for risk analysis? You have 30 seconds to go, guys. So to minimize the risk of fraud and financial losses, there's only one correct answer. And you need to tap the corresponding color on your phone screen, right? To speed up financial transactions, to maximize the return on investment of our clients, to increase the accuracy of credit scores, right? So what do you think, right? So what is the main goal of leveraging data science? 5 more seconds to go. Hurry up. So the correct answer is the red one, and everyone more or less got it correct. Let's move on to the next question. Let's see the scoreboard. So Sadia is at top, aspirant Karthik is at second, Siddharth is at third, and we have SK and Ayush as runners up. So let's move on to the next question. What is the role of supervised learning in risk analytics? Is it to identify patterns and relationships in data, to detect anomalies and unusual behavior, to predict future outcomes based on historical data, to segment customers into different groups? So we did discuss slightly about supervised learning. So if you recall, you'll be able to get this question, right? So just think, we don't have much time left, 5 more seconds to go. Right? So a lot of you got it correct, and a lot of you also got it wrong. So supervised learning is more or less important, where we want to sort of predict either if you do a classification problem or a regression problem. So it's to predict future outcomes overall, right? So Karthik is at top, Kritesh is at second, Vishal is at third. All right. So the leaderboard has changed now. Let's go look at the third question. So which of the following techniques can be used for data preparation in risk analytics? So so is it data visualization, data warehousing, data integration, data cleansing? So focus on the question. It says data preparation. So what do you think would be? So this is single correct. It's not multi correct. So you need to be careful. And the important hint is data preparation. So what do you think? Is it data visualization, data warehousing, data integration, or data cleansing? So what do you think, guys? So it is data cleansing and not data warehousing, because we talked about data preparation. Even though data warehousing is to store your data, but for data preparation, you need to clean your data so that you have a quality data to go ahead with, right? So we have Ismail, Sai, Sunil, Sadia, and Subhashish in the leaderboard. So let's go ahead and look at the fourth question. Which of the following is a popular programming language used in data science projects? This is a very easy question, and you would know it: C++, PHP, Java, Python. What do you think? Right? So I also discussed about how you can prepare gains table, and I mentioned one language. If you recall, you'll be able to get it. But I am sure everyone should be able to get it. Which language is a very popular programming language for data science projects? Right? So everyone got it correct apart from two people. Of course, C++ can be used. I'm not denying it, but Python is primarily used across industries for any data science projects. All right. So, all right, guys, let's have a look at the last question. Which of the following is not a benefit of using data science for risk analytics in the fintech industry? So it's not. So you have the options: improved decision making for credit risk management, faster processing times for financial transactions, increased accuracy in identifying potential fraud, increased customer satisfaction and loyalty. So what do you think is not a benefit of using data science, right? All right. So time's up, and the correct answer is faster processing times for financial transaction. So this is more or less related to the engineering side of things, guys, rather than data science of things, right? So if the compute power is if you have good compute power, you will be able to do faster processing. But the question was a benefit of it's not a benefit of data science. So that's why this is the answer, which is the blue one. All right. So let's have a look at the leaderboard. And in podium we have Sai. At third we have Sai. At second we have Ismail. Great, guys. And at first, who is it? Or so it's Sunil, right? Awesome. And the runners up are Ashutosh and Chandu. So well played, guys, and team. Please have a look at the report, and will accordingly, yeah, give out the vouchers and goodies. So awesome. This was like a really interesting quiz, guys, and so if I give out the summary, so more or less 54% of answers were correct. One question was slightly difficult where we got only 20% correct, but I hope you guys are now clear. Questions were like a bit convoluted. That's why we had them in the quiz. But all right, so this was awesome playing quiz with you guys. So now I would request Rashmi from our team to walk you through AlmaBetter offerings and AlmaBetter program, and she'll also give you a dashboard walkthrough. So I will urge every one of you to stay tuned. Please do not drop off, because this is very important for you if you want to enroll in our program and understand how AlmaBetter will help you achieve your data science career goals. So Rashmi, please go ahead and yeah, take over.
Sure, Vikash. Guys, just give me 1 minute and then we'll begin with watching the dashboard and the experience as it happens like when you join AlmaBetter.
All right, cool. Rashmi, I think, yeah, you can go ahead now.
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, so hi everyone. I am Rashmi and I am looking after the entire admissions team over here. So just hang on for one more second and we will get started. So it was a really insightful session getting to know about how BharatPe is leveraging data science and how they are able to keep intact the risk factor that they are able to lend out the loans and still they are able to recover those loans. So yeah, good, good insights there. Getting ahead for the next part of the session, that how AlmaBetter enhances your experience when you join our courses and how we are enabling students to transform their career in the domain of data science and web development. So AlmaBetter believes in putting students first before anything else. So the curriculum that we have designed over here is keeping in mind that it is the most industry relevant. It is designed with consultation with our hiring partners. And we believe in instilling the college or the school like experience that you had while you were learning for the most part of your career, like going through group discussions, studying in groups, doing projects in teams so that you are able to put your best foot forward, and then ultimately getting ready for jobs is what AlmaBetter is trying to give you as an overall experience over here when you join AlmaBetter. Moving ahead, like why should you be joining AlmaBetter? So the curriculum that we have designed, like I already mentioned, has been designed with consultation to our hiring partners, and everything that you would be studying over here, it's not just to complete a course, or it's not pretty much theoretical in nature that won't be utilized like the school or college curriculum that we have already done for a like good part of our career so far. So everything that you study over here you can directly put to use, and the best part is that you would be studying with the industry experts itself, like the instructors, mentors, whosoever you interact with throughout your learning journey would be a working professional. They are already working in some reputed firm and they know how, whatever topics that you would be going through, how to utilize that practically when you are to work. That is the first part. Second is that we offer 100 plus live classes, and the access to those live classes would be with you for a lifetime. The dashboard access that you would be getting after enrollment will stay with you for a lifetime. And for every live classes, you'll also get the recorded lectures once the live class has happened. And after you enroll, you would be getting the access to the recorded lectures of the ongoing cohorts. We have 20 plus capstone projects in place, and we have 1,000 plus coding problems and assessments, so that you never run out of problems, or you never run out of things to put your coding knowledge to. You will never find it will never happen that the coding problems will just not be there. You will have sufficient things to put your, whatever knowledge you have acquired on. We have weekly doubt resolution session, and we have 50 plus mock interviews and dedicated career coaches in place. And we also give you a 100% placement guarantee right after you enter our placement drive. So yeah, that is about that. The next part is just a second. The next part is the learning activities that you do over here. So for the technical skills, we have live classes, lab experiments, projects and assignments, and group discussions that happen on a regular basis over here. So live classes happens about 3 to 4 days in a week. So after you enroll, you will be getting the schedule for the same. We have lab experiments where you can visualize complex topics, like if you are coming from a non-technical background, or if you're not very good with mathematics or coding, so you have experiments in place through which you can visualize, through which you can see through how things are working behind the scenes. We have project and assignments that you do on an everyday basis. So after every live class, you get some projects and assignments to work on, to put those theoretical learnings to play. And we do group discussions on a very regular basis. So if you are enrolling in the course, right on the day of the orientation, we form a group of 5 people each. Matlab, for the entire pool of candidates that have joined in a group, everybody is associated with some group, and that group remains with you throughout the course, so that if you are falling out of track, if you lose out on motivation, then definitely you have a group to fall back to and to complement for your motivation. For motivation and industry exposure, we have one-on-one mentorship session. So this is a really good feature of the program that we have in place, that if you have any difficulty in your learning journey thoroughly from start to end, then you have a mentor with you, as in, like, you can always consult a mentor and you can get some advice on your learning journey. We conduct regular guest lectures. So this is a masterclass, and like this masterclass, we conduct various such sessions for our non-enrolled students and for our enrolled students, to keep in track with whatever is going on in the industry outside and how is the trend changing for data and AI. We have community participation, that too, I'll show you the platform later, from where students can interact with the huge pool of candidates that we have under the AlmaBetter umbrella. And the last part is mandatory, for which Alma X, that is capstone projects and competency challenges. So if you would have seen the website, so our entire curriculum for the data science course has about 4 to 6 modules. So 4 modules, 4 fundamental modules, and then 2 specialization modules, to finally prepare yourself and then come to our placement, right, for the placements. So for each of those modules, we have some capstone projects and competency challenges in place, which solidifies your learning for that particular module. So capstone projects will basically put your theoretical learning or all of the learnings that you have into real-time projects. You will see that how would you implement those learnings when you go and work in the industry outside. So in the process of doing those projects, you will definitely be collaborating with your peer, with your group. So that will give you a real-time experience of how would you go and work outside in a company. So that is what we are trying to do. And the other part is the competency challenges. So through competency challenges, you see that how perfectly you have mastered the module that you have just gone through. That is about that. The other part is that how do you get started, and how do you the path to success. Basically, it's the path to success via AlmaBetter. So the process for the path of success is pretty simple. There are 4 to 5 milestones that you need to fulfill. First step is that you sign up and enroll in the course. So that part is pretty easy. You just have to make up your mind, and you just have to realize that is the domain of data science your true calling. If it is, then we would urge you to not waste any more time, because you are at the right stop. Once you sign up and enroll, you get into our learning journey, and where you go through all of the things that we just discussed, and you start your learning journey and get certified. So like I was discussing, that after every module you go through some competency tests and capstone projects. So for every module, you get a certificate for yourself, and that certificate in itself also holds a lot of value, because you would be completing solid modules, and that would be enhancing your skill sets. That would make you employable right after the first module that you complete with this. After you have completed your learning journey and you have gotten certified, that is when we open up our doors for the Alma X. So for entering the Alma X, you need to sign the income share agreement with us, which is called as an ISA, and you get the course fee refunded. So this is a pretty exciting step, as in like you pay a nominal security deposit, or you can say a enrollment fee at AlmaBetter for enrolling yourself in the program, and that fee gets refunded once you sign up for our placement drive. So once you have signed the ISA and gotten the course fee refunded, that is when your Alma X processes will begin. That is when we will start you training for the placements, and upon the training for placements, you will go ahead and you will land your dream job in the domain of data science. So that is the simple journey that you need to go through. And once you have enrolled in our course, you do not need to worry about placements, or you do not need to worry about what all things do you need to learn. Like, it's a one-stop shop for you for becoming a data scientist. You just need to have faith in the process that we have designed, and the outcomes will follow, given consistency in efforts and dedication. The next part over here is, just a second, the hiring partners. So we have more than 500 hiring partners with us in place, through which you can assure your placements. So once you land in the placement drive, so you do not need to worry about that I have this particular firm in my mind, and would I be getting the job in that particular firm or not. So whatever companies would be hiring from AlmaBetter at the point in time that you graduate, you would be sharing your profiles with all of those hiring companies, and that is how you land minimum 3 to 4 offers for you to pick from, that which company would you ultimately want to go ahead and join. So that process is pretty simple. The salary distribution for AlmaBetter graduates. So although we guarantee a minimum salary of 5 LPA, but as you can see that about 40% of AlmaBetter graduates bag an offer in the range of 8 to 9 LPA. So that is what you should also put all of your bets on, that if you are enrolling in the course, you would not be getting the minimum placement guarantee. It is more of how you this. Now it's up to you that how do you utilize all of those resources and build a good profile for yourself. If you are able to do everything that is suggested or that is recommended for you, then definitely like bagging a offer of 8 to 9 LPA or in the range of 10 and 10 plus is not going to be a big deal. You would be highly confident by the time you complete the course that we will be getting this package. The next part is in your meet your instructors and mentors. So like I mentioned during the beginning of this journey, that everybody that you interact with in your learning journey is already a data scientist or is already a working professional. So that is going to make the learning experience altogether quite exciting for you, because on an everyday basis you will be getting some insights on how can you better yourself, how can you put whatever you are learning into good use, and you can also interact with them in a mentorship session or in whatever interactions that you get to have with them on how is it going for them in the outside world or in the companies that they are working in. The success stories. So we have been able to place more than 600 students so far since our inception in 2020. And yeah, every story is sort of unique to us, because there were various students, like you can say there were about 30 to 40% students who were not from the relevant background, who were not from an engineering background, who were not from technical background. So they were able to transform their career in the domain of data science. It is just through their dedication and the faith in the curriculum that we have designed for delivering this outcome. So what I'm trying to say is that the curriculum or the path that we have designed for our students is already tried and tested. We have been able to place so many hundreds of students in the past through this process. So we definitely will be able to place 1,000 more students just through the process that we have set up. To pinpoint a few success stories so that what to say, you can also connect with these folks over LinkedIn and get a better first-hand idea on how they were able to transform their career in the domain of data science. So Neville was working as an associate analyst, and then he was able to transform his career and become a full stack data scientist at Cognizant. He got a 120% placement hike. So Bhagya Verma again was one of our students in the what to say, last year, I believe, and he was working as an event marketing intern, and he was able to transform his career, and he was able to break into the domain of data science and bag a title of associate analytics consultant, and he got a 50% hike on his salary. Kamya Malhotra was a fresher. She had no experience in her hand. She was fresh out of college, and she was able to become a associate statistical programmer at Novartis. To quote more such stories, Soumya Bai was also a fresher, and she was able to become a junior business analyst at Saras. Nikhila was working as a data analyst, and she was able to become a senior data analyst at Citi. So Citi is an MNC, guys, and this is pretty huge. This is a testimony that this program is supposed to give you outcomes if you are dedicated enough to throughout the course. And she was able to get a 200% salary hike through utmost dedication in the course. Romali Das was an application development analyst, and she was able to become associate of analytics and business insights at Myntra, and she was able to get a 100% hike in her salary. So now I would share my screen, and I would show you how the student dashboard looks like, and how your experience would become after you join the course, like how everything will unfold that we just spoke about right now. Just give me 1 second. So just so you know, guys, we have a new data science batch coming up this Tuesday, that is cohort Bali. And just give me 1 more second. I hope my screen is visible. Right? Yeah. Can you write yes if my screen is visible to all of you? Cool. So guys, this is the student dashboard that you would see once you enroll in our course. So over here, you can go and you can click on continue learning, and you will get inside the dashboard, and you will see the curriculum and the entire plan for the next 6 months. On the right hand side, this is where you can see the schedule of our classes. So right now I am enrolled in cohort Monaco that came up this week, Tuesday. Okay, so in the upcoming classes, my classes would be next week, Monday. So I would see my charter over here maybe by tomorrow evening or Monday morning. So I went through 3 of the classes in, telling you as a student, I went through 3 of the classes that happened this week. So I can go and review the lecture recording, or I can preview this lecture again from here from the right hand side of my screen. So going inside this dashboard, you click on the continue learning and you go to this learn tab. Okay. So over here, you will see the entire curriculum that you have to go through for your learning journey. Like this would be your one stop from where you can do everything that you have to related to your learning journey. Like you just have to stick to this learn tab for your everyday lectures and assessments and things. The remaining tabs we will be coming to later. So for the cohort Bali that is coming up next week, so as soon as you enroll in the course, so this tab will open, and the very first item on your curriculum would be the program orientation. So on Tuesday, when the batch starts, you will have to go through your orientation program, and everything related to your 6 months down the line learning journey would be given to you, or you would get a idea of how you will get a roadmap of how the entire 6 months would look like, what all things are important to do in your journey and whatnot. You'll get to know everything. So this is the very first module is the program orientation. So this spans for about a week, and that is about it. The second module is Introduction to Computer Programming. So this is where you learn everything related to what to say, Python, like the very first and basic module. The very fundamental thing to learning and becoming a data scientist is knowing Python, because everything is R is thoda redundant in nature. Python is a language that is used all in almost 90% of the firms. So we would be going ahead and teaching you Python in the very first module. So this module will go on for about a month, and you will get everything that is related to and you need to learn in Python would be available to you over here. So just to cut out one more confusion, over here you must be seeing on my dashboard that there are 7 modules, but if you go and look at on the website, there are four modules. So do not get worried about that. It's just that the 4 modules has been expanded into 7 modules so that we can cover more topics thoda easily for the students. But the time that you would take to complete the 7 modules would remain the same. We have just expanded the modules a little bit. So over here, for any or every module that you open, everything that is related for that module will be given to you on the same card. So let's suppose I am in module 2, I'm learning Introduction to Computer Programming, that is Python. So for this module, if I have to attempt a competency test, or if I have to attempt a coding assessment or anything, or if I have to do some visual experimentations for, let's suppose, applied statistics, so everything related to this will be available on this card itself. So since this is a new dashboard, so the further modules are right now logged for me, but as soon as you progress in your learning journey, everything will start opening up for you. And after you have completed the entire basic and the fundamental modules, that these 7 modules that are very fundamental to becoming a data scientist. So these modules are important for anyone who is trying to break into the field of data science, like Introduction to Computer Programming, numerical programming in Python, relational databases for your visualization, and then visualization tools, applied statistics, and Introduction to Machine Learning. So all of these modules are pretty basic and would be taught to everybody, regardless of your interest in business or data engineering or advanced ML. So this would remain fundamental to becoming a data scientist. And after you have completed up till module 7, after you have completed all of the fundamentals to become a data scientist, we allow you to choose a specialization and go ahead with it. So not everybody wants to become a full stack data scientist. There are multiple subdomains that you can pick and you can go ahead with for creating your career in the same. So after all of the fundamentals are done, you can either choose to be a business. You can go ahead and choose business analysis, which will allow you to become a business analyst or a data analyst, or else you can pick out and you can become a data engineer. You can pick and choose data engineering, through which you can become a data engineer, or you can pick out advanced ML, through which you can become an NLP expert or an ML engineer. So it's completely up to you. But by the time that you complete all of the fundamentals, you will have a sense in yourself that whether you want to, what is the specialization or what exactly are you more inclined towards, and it would be easy for you to pick out a specialization and go ahead with it. That is about the learning journey. Next is the practice tab. So like I mentioned that we have thousands of coding problems in place through which you can always stay active. You will always stay utilized. You'll always stay, active in your learning journey. So you can go ahead and solve the coding problems from here. So yeah, this is about that. Next is the project. So we have about 20 plus capstone projects provided at your end, out of which 6 to 7 projects would be mandatory in nature for you to complete. But we have multiple projects in your hand, so that if you have more free time, you can do those projects and you can leverage those projects on your resume towards the end of the program. So yeah, these projects are also quite exciting in nature, and you will get to look at it from a very expanded version once you enroll in the program. Like we have picked out quite interesting topics to create a project on. The next is the career tab. So over here, as soon as you enroll in the program and you start making some progress, you will see that how far you are from entering, or how near you are to entering AlmaX. So this would be helpful for you to have an idea key where are you in your learning journey right now. And over here is the most exciting part, that is the mentorship session. So like I mentioned that you will have a mentor at your exposure. So as and when you feel like you need to connect with a mentor, you can come to this, and you can like book a mentorship session from this tab from here. So whether it is for placement guidance, learning guidance, or a capstone project, so you can choose like your whatever it is needed for, and you can go ahead with it. The next part is the help desk. So for every or any problem that you face during your learning journey, you can go ahead in to our support platform, and you can raise a ticket for any problem that you're facing. So this platform is not just limited to raising a ticket and getting your issues resolved. We have a knowledge base in place where you can like, let's suppose if you are having a problem and that problem is not state of art new problem, you might feel that okay, like if you want to change a cohort, or if you want to look at your dashboard and something on your dashboard is not working out pretty well, so you might feel that somebody else in the past also might have faced this problem. So you can just type up your problem over here, and you can see that problem, or you can see the answers to those problems if somebody else has faced in the past, or if your problem is not mentioned in the knowledge base, if you cannot find a problem in the knowledge base, that is when you can go ahead and raise a ticket about it. Okay. Next is the forums. So forum is the forum tab is a discussion forum which is active 24/7. So for every module that we have in place, we have dedicated a group for it, and you can go ahead and do some discussions with your batchmates or with people across the AlmaBetter community. You can connect with anybody from here, and you can start collaborating on interesting topics, or you can just discuss the problems. If you're facing any coding problem, then you can post your problems over here, and somebody either from the AlmaBetter pool or the instructors or mentors will resolve your problem in at their earliest. This is about that. The next part over here is the performance tracker. So since this dashboard is quite new, the cohort has started just a week back, so there is not much progress over here. But as soon as you progress in your learning journey, you will see the average score, your cohort, your average score, the ALMEC students average, and the cohort average, and the star students average over here. So you can have a comparison as to where you stand and where your cohort stands. How is your learning journey? This will help you keep a check on how your learning journey is going. And at the same time, you will get a good push on you should be getting up and doing things for transforming your career. After all, you have enrolled in the program for the same motto. So you will get good reality checks at every possible milestones in your learning journey. And you can also track your progress across various modules that you go through. All right, so this is about that. I think I have to show you I have covered almost everything on the dashboard that is relevant for your learning journey. The one part is the live lectures. So the live lectures over here are hosted on a different platform called AirMe. So as soon as you enroll in the course, you'll get the exposure to that platform as well. So when you see this upcoming class over here, if you enroll for the next cohort that is coming on this Tuesday, cohort Bali. So you will see the orientation session for cohort Bali over here scheduled on your calendar. You can also bookmark this on your calendar, and this will take you to the AirMeet platform from where you can attend the orientation session for the same, and every live classes after the orientation. So this is cohort Monaco, and I can go and view the schedule. So since I do not have any live class today on my calendar, I can watch the replay of the sessions that I have that have happened in the past. So this is the pro program orientation that happened on 28th. When the batch commenced. So I can watch the replay from here in case if I have missed the class, or I'll get to see the upcoming classes over here. So this is the schedule part. The other part on this dashboard is the lounge. So this is an exciting place. This is the place where, I mentioned that on the day one of your orientation, everybody will have a group of 5, a team of 5 folks, and you will be getting this table allocated to yourself on the lounge section. So you can come at any point during the day, you can collaborate with your peers, and you can come over here for discussing any topic that you want to. You can just join this table and you can start collaborating with your peers. So this is This lounge section for collaborating with your peers is active 24/7. This is about that, and just a second. Okay. And the last part is the community platform. So on this platform, you can connect with anybody in the AlmaBetter, whosoever is in the AlmaBetter umbrella. So you can connect with the mentors, instructors, the the industry guests that we call on a regular basis. So everybody who is related to AlmaBetter can be found on the AlmaBetter community platform. So like I have enrolled in cohort Monaco, so I can see my dedicated cohort card, that is Monaco over here, and I can interact with people who have enrolled in the same cohort for sharing my learning journey, or for sharing any sorts of confusions or problems that I might face during the learning journey. There is this a chill space that is also available over here for just keeping the vibe of the platform up. Like this community platform is highly active at any point of time that you come to the platform. This will give you an experience close to LinkedIn, but in a more participative way. It is more of a LinkedIn for young people, where you can come and interact, and you can share memes, and you can have a good time at the same time. Okay, so once you enroll in the course, you will get the exposure to all of this, and you can explore everything one by one. You can even connect with people who are from the same background. You can find people over here, and how you can make the best out of it going ahead. So yeah, that is about it, guys. And I think the last part is, just give me one more second. I'll be sharing my screen. So since I mentioned that we have a batch coming up on this Tuesday, that is 4th of April. So we are running a early bird discount right now, and the coupon code for availing a flat 35% off is BharatPe 35. So you can use this coupon code, and you can avail a discount of 35% on the checkout page of our website. I'll just show you quickly that how you can go ahead and apply this coupon code. So once you land on the website, you can just click on the enroll now button from, you can click on the enroll now tab from the banner of the website. And once you come to this payment page, you will see that there is this coupon code ANV20 already applied on the checkout. You can cancel this. This will give you a 20% discount. But since we are running an early bird offer, you can avail this discount of 35%. So apply the coupon code BharatPe 35, and this will give you a discount of flat 10,500. So you can save some money and enroll in the course. And if you have any confusions, or if you want to know more about the program, or if you have any doubts, then please fill out the feedback form that is shared on the chat, and our admissions team will reach out at their earliest. Okay, so you can you just need to click on this check boxes, and you can enroll right away. So that is all, and now we can open up for Q&A. So yeah, Vikash.
Yeah, thank you, Rashmi, for walking our audience through the AlmaBetter platform and our offerings. So now I think we can quickly sort of take 4 or 5 questions, and I think that could be it for this session. So I think Akshay is asking, what's the course fee for data science? So I think Rashmi already showed you. So if you use the coupon code, it will ask you to make a payment of 19,000 something. So the base price of enrollment fee, which is refundable in our case, so that will be a total of 29,999. But if you apply the coupon code, you'll need to just pay around 19,499. So yeah, that's the fee. All right. Any other question? So where is enrollment link, sir? So basically, Srinivas, it's available both on the website and also on the Grow platform. So once you sign in, right, so you'll be able to see that see an enroll now CTA button. You can simply click on that and you'll go to the payment page, right, which Rashmi already shared, right? So it's pretty straightforward. It's already available on your home dashboard when you sign up. It's already available on the website as well, right? So shouldn't be a problem. I think
I
can
have
we
also put
give the
the
link
enrollment
to
link on the
enrollment
chat
link?
box. I have already put
I'll
that on
just
the chat
share
box.
over the chat, guys.
Yes, Saurav, we have EMI options available with us. You can just fill out the form that Narendra had shared like 2 to 3 minutes ago, and our admissions team will reach out to you for helping you with EMI options if possible.
I think Narendra, can you share the enrollment link in the chat?
Vikash, we have already shared that enrollment link. People can.
All right. Okay, cool. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, it's already available, guys, on your dashboard. So you can see this enroll now option. So that is how you can go ahead and enroll, right? It's pretty straightforward, right? And cool. Any more questions?
Yes, Akshay is asking that once we place via AlmaBetter, how much do we have to share from our salary? So we do not take a segment from your salary. We believe in what to say, giving you a solid placement guarantee of a certain amount, and we charge you a certain amount. So we charge 2,40,000 after you are placed via AlmaBetter with a minimum salary of 5 LPA. So that is all that you need to pay, and that is after the placement. We do not charge you anything until you are placed.
So usually what happens, guys, so to enroll into the course, you need to pay this refundable security fee of, in this case, it will be 19,000 something. And so now once you are into the Almax career track, we refund your enrollment fees. And uh, right. And then once you get placed, you'll be required to pay a payment of 2,40,000 that you can pay in over 24 months with an EMI of 10,000, right? So, and you're going to get your enrollment fee refunded once you enter your Almax and sign the ISA, right? So that is what the construct is. So I hope that is clear to everyone, right? So if so you only need to pay above, if you get a job above 5 LPA. So let's say if you get anything less than that, you're not required to pay at all, right? So that is how it works, right? So we stick to our promise and we make sure that you at least get a job above 5 LPA. So that is how it works. Cool. Any more questions, Rashmi, or can we go ahead and wrap up this session?
Yeah, I think we can go ahead and wrap up this
Cool.
session.
So thank you so much, guys, for tuning into this masterclass episode, which we keep doing every weekend. So thank you for attending this session and everyone who has not only joined over Zoom but also over LinkedIn and YouTube. So thank you so much again for taking your time out. I hope this session was pretty valuable, where I hope guys got to know about how data science is used and used in risk analytics, at least in the fintech industry. So I hope, it was really helpful. So we'll come back with another episode next weekend. And till then, stay tuned. And cheers, everyone. All right. Have a great day. Thank you so much
Thank you
again.
everyone for joining in. Yeah, see you next week with another session.
All right. Okay, guys. Bye. Take care. Enjoy your weekend then.